29 березня працює медіа.
Today is March 29, Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum starts its operation. My name is Vasil Samakvalov and we will be talking about the pensions now. In order to receive pensions, first you have to pay something for that. And not everybody can make it today. Someone is unable to make it, and how to help it. We will be talking about that with our guests today. So visiting us today is Oksana, Zholnovych, Minister of the Social Policy of Ukraine, Yuliya, Sokolovska, Deputy Head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, and Yevhen, Kapinus, Chairman of the Board of the Pension Fund of Ukraine. So let's start with Ms. Yuliya, who will tell us what the problem is and how it should be solved. Please. Thank you very much. Good morning, dear Ukrainians, dear participants. We would like to share the information about the new digital instrument today. Using it, you can voluntarily contribute to the pension fund of Ukraine using their online platform. So based on our pension needs today and everything that people do for this, there are such phenomena as indexations, as disbursements in the deoccupied territories. Now we're trying to create some digital non-standard instruments which could support each other, which would help us support each other and support some charity initiatives and other mechanisms for support. As we know, to get pension in the solidary system, we all need the insurance track record and insurance contributions. And today in a portal of the pension fund we will be talking about this in detail. There is a new instrument that allows you, using a couple of clicks, to make that insurance contribution to whom it may be of interest. In fact, that option is more for the people who are not pensioners yet. For example, the people who left abroad, they have some income there. However, they want to have pension in Ukraine. They need to have the service record in Ukraine, so they may use those instruments that we will be talking about today. And people who are a little bit below pension age, they just lack a little bit of service record, and they can in fact buy that time. And another category is the people who get small wages now while working, and with such voluntary contribution they may increase the amount of their future pension because the amount of your salary also influences the amount of your future pension. Well, how it works? It's very simple. I recommend everybody to get familiarized with that. I visited the portal today. It's just a couple of clicks. You sign an agreement and you make a contribution according to the amount you wish, and then the system automatically may work to credit that contribution on a regular basis to your personal record. My colleagues will tell you more in detail about that. Also today we will be talking about the charity contributions for pension fund, or some specific pensioners, they may be personalized or non-personalized. That option might be interesting for big businesses, big international organizations that want to contribute to this area of charity today to support the people of older age in Ukraine. I would like to pass the microphone to my colleagues for the details. Yes, we have two aspects. We have the story of how it was developed and the story about how it will be implemented. So first, let's see how it was developed. I know that you, Ms. Oksana, you have the presentation here. Please can we put the presentation on the screen? Good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to continue telling you about the new instruments and new opportunities for our people, specifically for those people who plan to get their pensions or already get it. The challenges of war, they make us change approaches to the regular things. We worked on those instruments for a long time, since summer, in a joint team with the pension fund, with the parliament and the office of the president. We developed the draft law, which was already passed through a number of readings, and we developed a mechanism that we think it should be interesting, no matter how non-standard it looks like. And it's the first time when we offer the whole society to contribute to the support of our pensioners, but this passionate nature that was developed with the society lately, when we see huge donations for different purposes, for different organizations, we understand that today the way the solidary pension system is made, everybody who works pays 22% from their salary, which are being credited as the pension contribution for a future pension. However, later on, that money is being disseminated among the existing pensioners. We understand that the number of working population in Ukraine decreased lately. Many such people left with their families abroad. However, unfortunately, people of the pension age, the elder ones, it doesn't really matter whether they are outside Ukraine or still here. We continue to pay pensions to them. We continue to fulfill our obligations in front of them. We continue to accrue the money for them from that joint pool. And those are not so big amounts of money that we would like to pay out. However, from this year, we indexed certain pensions. For some of them, it was 19.5% of indexation. It would help to equalize the situation with lower pensions. However, there are still pensions below 3,000 hryvnia, and those categories of pensioners who, due to maybe short service record or lower contributions, for whom that amount does not allow to cover their basic needs, there are international organizations, there are donors who understand the challenges for such people. They can contribute in an easy and simple way to cover a part of the expenses for the people they would like to support. The law simplifies the mechanism that we approved, and now in compliance with this law there are subsequent regulations being developed, and we may start with replenishing those instruments or implementing them. So please get involved, contribute. As Ms. Yuliya mentioned, visit our website. It's interactive, just a couple of clicks, without bureaucracy, without paperwork, no visits to any organizations. You just increase your service record, and that increase is significant. I want to tell you to what extent it increases the calculation for your future pension, but at the same time, today already it helps those pensioners who get pensions, because it increases the total number of income that helps us to get it redistributed about existing pensioners. You can even do it from abroad if you get some social support financing there, or your salary is non-official, so you can later on receive normal pension while working, even while working abroad. Or if you work in Ukraine and you would like to increase your pension contribution on a monthly basis, you can increase that sum, and based on that sum, on that bigger amount, your pension will be increased relevantly in future. Also the donor support, it may be personalized or non-personalized to the joint solidary pension system. So to make this process automatic, you have to be signed up, you have to be registered on the system, you have to undergo the primary verification, and then through your personal account all those options will become very convenient for you. And people who already are pensioners, they cannot use the mechanism for increase of their service record because they are already pensioners, they already get money from that fund. Well, obviously we need an agreement. You can sign it with your digital signature through DIR application or ID Bank. It may be administered through web portal. Ms. Yevhen will tell you more in detail about that. Do you have to report on that? No, there are no additional requirements. The payment is on a monthly basis and it will be automatically credited to your account. It will automatically increase the amounts accrued for your pension, and there are no additional reports required for any organizations or agencies. How do we work? Here is an example. If according to the agreement you add 2000 hryvnias per month, the calculation of your monthly salary will be more than 9000 hryvnia. It's a not bad increase of your salary. Every 100 hryvnias that you add to your service record, if you have it or you pay it as your service record, they increase your salary almost 500 hryvnias. So those are the main key details that I would like to have emphasized. I would like to invite everybody to get involved because there are different circumstances that don't allow us to cover our monthly periods, but the most effective instrument in the world is the solidary pension system. We will have accumulation system when people will pay funds to their personal account, but that's a lengthy reform that is complicated and involves different financial instruments such as investing, and is possible after our victories. So during wartime we can also improve the condition of our pensioners today and increase our opportunities to receive the increased pension from Solidary Fund today already, thanks to the instruments that we implement today. Well, we proceed from the theory to practice, so please put the presentation on the screen. Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm happy to be invited here, to see everybody here. When we started discussing that issue, those were times when we were understanding that many people were relocated, they were unable to make contributions for themselves. Some of the businesses couldn't make pension contributions, so we brought up the issue that under conditions like this, we have to help the people, we have to support them with some additional opportunity. And one of the first tasks that was set by the president and to the Ministry of Social Policy was to implement the mechanism which would be simple and convenient for every single citizen of Ukraine. That's why it was offered to make it in such a system that would eliminate the necessity to walk around the government offices, agencies and organizations, and would enable you from any spot on the planet to enter the portal and to make relevant payments to guarantee that people would have necessary amounts accrued in future so that they spend their pension time with dignity. That's why we adopted the relevant law, and the relevant regulations are being developed. Their development is underway, so you can see it in the presentation. We made it possible to enable the voluntary contributions. So you enter your personal account. You can create it with different modes of self-verification, like bank ID, digital signature, or DIA application. All those opportunities that people are already using now. Many people already use DIA, and they have this option. They may use this option to identify themselves. So they enter the portal, and there are no further complications, no complicated changes to be made. They only have to pick the tab to enter into agreement on the voluntary participation, a voluntary contribution. So in this step, people should pick whether they pay for themselves or they pay for someone else. If they pay for themselves, the data is being compiled automatically, they are being pulled by the system, and people may see all the identifiers that are necessary for themselves. If they pay for someone else, they need to add the information like first name, family name, and patronymic, passport details, and thus they may identify the people for whom they make contributions. After that, there is a payment made. We were offered two ways of payments. First of all, through portemonnaie, when you may transfer funds from your payment card, or to create some payment details and pay through a bank branch, depending on how you wish it to be made, and the funds will be credited directly to the accounts of the pension fund and distributed in the personal account in the portal according to the periods during which the contributions were made. If an amount is above the maximum allowable amount per month, they will be redistributed in a couple of months, and it will be mentioned that people make contributions for the maximum contributions that could be paid out of the salary of the Ukrainian citizens. Other option is the voluntary contribution. It's a charity contribution. Many people are currently in very difficult conditions. That's why we decided to offer an option when any random person without identification may enter the portal of the pension fund and make a donation, to a personalized donation to somebody, or to the solidarity system of pension insurance, and thus forwarding funds to the solidarity pension system. If such random person, if such donor makes a contribution which is personalized, that person receives 70% of that donated amount, and other 30% go for funding, are forwarded for funding of the whole pension system. Under conditions like this, it allows us to make addressed payments, personalized payments to certain pensioners whom some organizations or other people want to finance, and there is no need for mandatory verification who the donor is. What are the results that we have for the time being? Regardless the fact that the system was just launched, there was no active campaign, the information campaign. Today more than 100 people already made voluntary contributions. I would like to mention that one such person paid more than 100,000 hryvnias, and it's a 5-month accrual from the maximum salary. Is the same as if they were making joint social contribution on more than 100,000 hryvnias of the salary. As to the donors, the donorship is not as widespread and popular today as the mode used previously. It was only 9 people, but I think more and more people will get involved further on to help the people in these to help our pensioners under difficult conditions like this. I would like to add just a couple of words. So we're in fact talking about simplification of the additional mechanisms. We had this opportunity to add to your service record before, where you could voluntarily sign up for disbursements, but today's instruments, they're digitalized, they're simplified for the people. They show that those services are becoming popular already. It's nice to hear that we did not publicly announce this option yet. It's only being tested, but people already started using it. There are already people who understand that this is the easiest mechanism to support themselves, to help themselves to have better pension, or to help themselves covered with some payments in future in a simplified way. We would like to see more donor pensions, but it's only a matter of time, matter of communication, and our meeting today may be a push to make that second instrument more popular throughout the public. Or maybe it was done by some people who work with the pension fund probably, or your ministry. So I have a question. Well, first of all, who are the main recipients or the target audience of this service? How do you evaluate in number of people and in amount of money? And if we solve some problem, it means that this problem exists. So what was the problem that emerged due to the number of people who left abroad, again, in amounts of money and in numbers of people? Well, everything is okay with the budget of the pension fund now. There is no gap. There is a lot of myth that our pension fund is underfinanced. It lacks funding. There are some injections from the state budget, but it's not always true, because the pension fund disburses solidary pension contributions and state pensions too. For example, disbursements to the army servicemen and the judges, those pensions are being calculated under a different procedure, and it's the state who is the payer of such disbursements from the very beginning. So the government should act in cooperation with the pension fund for disbursements to certain categories of pensioners. But what the situation shows us now, it's no secret to anybody that our military, who currently protect us in the front lines, in our borders from the aggressor, they receive good salaries from which they pay pension contributions. So at the same time, our military are also defenders of our pensioners, because those payments helped us to make normal indexation during this month. So from the point of view of current disbursements of the pension fund, they are all forecasted, and it all happens thanks to the fact that we received more than 1 million people with the clear, transparent salaries who pay their pension contributions. It's a good example for businesses, because if everybody pays the joint social contribution fairly, like at the level of 22%, there are 13 million insured people, only 1 million. So based on the example of this 1 million, we were able to stabilize the situation with the pension fund. So if everybody does so, all the 13 million, the opportunities of the pension fund would increase respectively, and our pensioners would be a lot more protected. But we understand that due to some things like distrust, the employers are not always interested to increase that pension contribution. This is why we gave this opportunity to the employer themselves. We don't ask them how do they make their money. We don't ask them where they make their money, but we now give them the option to provide them with good pension, and we show all the society that such payment is something that supports our society today. It equalizes the opportunities for our pensioners, and it gives us the opportunity to support them. Okay, so getting back to my question, do we have a number of people who left abroad? How many people paid or did not pay the contribution before? Well, up to 7 million people left abroad. The vast majority of them are of capable age. Part of them keeps making insurance contribution. They keep working, but as to the dynamics, maybe Mr. Denis will add something. Well, at the beginning of the warfare, there was a fall in the number of the insured individual. Well, not about the individuals, but it's more about the organizations, the businesses. But talking about the situation today, a situation got equalized recently, and we are now at the same level as a pre-war time. But again, I want to repeat what Ms. Minister mentioned. Under conditions like this, if we take this real situation, we have absolutely balanced forecast for the next year, and all of our disbursements, our future disbursements, are covered with current proceeds, thanks to the fact that we received a significant number. We have significant number of people here who make payments at high levels, so our prospects look quite bright. And at this specific example, we may see that we tend more to have those mechanisms used by the people who, for example, left abroad today, who are under conditions where they cannot make relevant financing because they cannot come back to Ukraine and work officially under conditions like this. They are provided with mechanisms that they may use. Well, talking about the amounts, for the time being, it's a little bit too early to make some specific evaluation, but even seeing those figures that our portal didn't work for a long time, but we already have a certain number of people who have used it already, so we can forecast that this service will be in demand in future. And I'm convinced that everybody understands clearly that today many people can make additional payments but it's not always when the employer is interested to make high contributions. However, people understand that they personally want to receive good pension, and this is why they want to contribute themselves. Well, Ms. Yuliya wants to add something. Yeah, I would like to add a couple of things in the context of your question. Well, this instrument also gives us the opportunity to connect with our people abroad. As a country, we want our people to come back. And this is the instrument that would allow us to maintain that emotional connection, the financial connection with the older age, and plans for the future in Ukraine. Obviously, we try to do everything that we can in all of the fronts to make people come back, and this is one of the components of such connection. Another thing is, when we were thinking about that instrument, when we were designing it, we were thinking about a couple of things. First of all is the period of donorship, of volunteership. It's unprecedented in Ukraine, and helping to our current, to existing pensioners now, because we pay out the pensions from these current contributions. This is how we pay ourselves in future, because in our philosophy it's a win-win history. Today we help paying pensions to the pensioners of today, and further on someone will help you to get your normal pension. So there is also a scientific research component to this instrument. I work a lot with the international organizations which work all across the world, and the studies within decades, they proved that there are no 100% transparent salaries all around the world. A part of the sectors are still working in the shadow, even in some progressive countries. Yes, even in some progressive countries, it's a fact, it's not an assumption. There are progressive countries. I was, for example, taking part in a number of meetings, and they focused the attention of the authorities in those countries so that they create the instruments using which people may help themselves to add contributions to their future pension, and that became one of the factors why we made that instrument, because even the progressive world is moving towards recognition of the shadow sector. It exists, it doesn't go anywhere. Yes, it becomes smaller, but it doesn't go away during decades. Thank you very much. Do we have questions on the floor? Good morning, Yuliya Bakumova, Ukrinform. I like the statement by Ms. Oksana that the instrument of adding the service record is existing in Ukraine. Do we have the information about how many people have already used it, and what are the terms for such adding? For what I know, the term that your pension service record can be increased is from 1 and up to 5 years. Well, I would like to first of all mention that the first instrument that was working before that, it was for adding, for buying, actually, for buying time, for buying years within your previous record, because that mechanism allowed you to make payment for a person who works now, and that payment would be relevant in the same way as the business which finances the joint social contribution. The mechanism which existed before was for the people who were lacking service record before transition to pension. If we take it in time periods, I cannot say that many people were using that mechanism. In fact, people were buying it in case they were lacking like 2 to 3 years, but average was half a year. It was a weighted average for the category of people who were using that mechanism, but in the majority, under conditions like this, there are certain requirements for the service record when people become pensioners. People were waiting just for some time before they retire, and before they were realizing that they are lacking up to half a year of pension record. That was a different mechanism. The one that is offered now is different in another way. So the previous one was saying that you were working until certain age and you're still lacking some, you have some gap in your service record, and this is how you may buy this gap. This is how you may cover it. And this previous mechanism, it was, so to say, not quite convenient, because you had it was meaning that you have to go to the tax administration to enter into an agreement with them, and only upon that you would have been able to finance that time gap. Then now we reverted it. We understand that now people end up in a circumstance when they cannot get some payment which would allow them to contribute to the pension fund, so people can do it themselves. They don't have to go to a pension fund or other government agencies or administrations. They just go to their account online with the pension fund, and they understand that their pension contribution may be at the level of the maximum salary within certain period of time. So it's convenient, it's easy, and people are not tied to some specific area. They may do it from any spot in the world where they are at this moment, and they know that as they retire, they will have an opportunity to get their normal pension. Well, I think that the philosophy is different here. The previous mechanism was to cover some lost opportunities, the opportunities lost in the past, but now, so it's like now you're a pensioner and you're already retired and you still have to pay some amount to cover some gap in your service record. In some cases it was impossible because some people who were not working enough and they still want to have some pension, they still have to have some savings. And in this case, we offer people to plan their pension, buy it month by month. It's way easier, it's way more convenient, and it allows people to look in the future. Meanwhile, they're active, they are capable of working, they can regulate their income in a number of ways, and they can provide an increased record for themselves, helping other pensioners. So this is a different philosophy. Well, and one more commentary, if I may, just to add to my response. There are two mechanisms existing at the moment. So the mechanism when you can plan your future, it's about this existing mechanism, and another is when people retire and they still have some gaps in their service record to get good pension, and this is when you have to physically go to tax administration to physically enter into agreement, and there are some ratios that according to which the pension is being calculated for the past periods, and you may buy more time of your service record. So this mechanism already works. Again, it's different philosophies that use different instruments. Okay, so I would like to ask for details. The calculation of the pension is quite a complicated process, and some time passes before those pensions are being calculated for people. There are some months missing from the record, and based on this new instrument, to what extent is the mechanism simplified? For example, me as a working person, may I calculate my pension? How much will I get in future? Thank you, it's a very good question. Really, for a long time the question was how much my pension will be. So when we were working on the mechanisms of additional payment to what people make, we were understanding that people need to have some clear forecast about how much they will be getting, so whether it's worth doing or not. So as you enter your personal account, you can see the pension calculator on top of the screen. And so today the pension calculator is a forecast of how much people will get if they stop working today, if they stop making the social contributions, or otherwise people may add the details about how much they intend to pay in future on a monthly basis, and they will see the amount of pension they will get in future. There were a number of iterations of this calculator, and the one posted on the website, it includes a number of mechanisms. First of all, the system generates the information from the registers of the insured persons based on the payments that people made since the years 2000, and it brings up the salary that people used to have, and it uses the real indicators that may be used in calculations of the pension that people will have, and further on it allows adding more indicators, how much people plan to pay, and based on that they may see the amount of pension they are about to see, because the algorithm of calculation is using the system that is used for calculation of real pensions in the pension fund. It's not an abstract calculation. It's the real system that is used for calculation of pensions according to the law in effect. So any person may go to their personal account and see all those indicators to see what will be their pension in future given their monthly payments. Yes, I would like also to add a couple of words. In this pension cabinet, in this pension account, you see your how many months were accrued for you in your different places of work. For example, when I was looking through my service record, there were some periods that were not accounted. It gave me some clear picture already now. I didn't have to wait for the moment when I retire and for the final calculation. Today I have instruments that allow us to understand our current service record, what we've already made by our monthly contributions, and to calculate what is still necessary to be done so we get some payment. And obviously we keep moving forward, and those services that we offer now, they are innovative and they can be desired options even for our foreign partners, because not all of them have some such options as we do. Well, a couple more words. I would like to emphasize that today what was said, there are requirements to the service record, but there are also requirements about the labor books, the digital labor books. Today, pension fund creates the joint database for all the labor books, and the employers, they are obliged to submit their labor books for all their employees, or the employees can do it themselves. The scanned copy is being digitalized, and there is such a phenomena as a digital labor book for the time being. It prevails over the paper labor book, and we make all the accruals based on that. So I invite all the employers to submit the electronic labor books, because the period for such submission is only 5 years, and it also allows the employees to have the service record digitalized. The register was implemented back in year 2000, and it allows us to fully calculate the contributions made within that period. And before year 2000, the paper labor book should be digitalized, and it may be added to the details that based on which the calculator makes its pension calculations. So any person now can go online, get into their account to see all their places of employment and see all the necessary procedures that for accrual of pensions. They only will be limited to the fact that the people will have all the pension calculated based on the calculations from the pension fund. Olena Matsuska, 1+1. Well, let's imagine the situation. A person was forced to live abroad. They were working legally, transparently, and fairly here in Ukraine. They were paying contributions. They left abroad but were unable to find job there. They get some financial support. It's kind of income, but it's only to support their existence. So in that case, how should they express themselves for those social contributions? What is the threshold amount, the minimal amount, so that a person pays some minimal amount, and that amount is being calculated, is being credited as contribution. And again, please remind me, what are the minimal ages for for retirement for men and women. Well, there is no such indicator as minimal level of payment in this mechanism. People identify themselves how much they want to pay, whether they want to pay 100 hryvnias or 200, or as I mentioned, there was a payment in amount of 100,000 hryvnias. It all depends on the people. So 2,000 to 2,400 hryvnias is the minimal amount of payment. This is what it says about the normal minimal monthly payment. So if there are some funds being credited, they will be credited in any amount that people wish them to be credited, but it will be broken down into months based on the maximum amount paid for month. Well, I will explain it in more simple words. So everything will be credited. Everything will be credited proportionally, pro rata. So you have to pay 22% of the minimal wage. So it's 1,400 hryvnia. So if you want, for anybody who is abroad, so check the minimal wage and calculate 22% out of that amount. So 22% allows you to cover the full month. But if you don't have such an amount, pay any amount, and that month will be credited for you pro rata. So if, for example, you pay below 1,400, you will have a half month credited. There is no threshold amount, but the calculation will be made based on the general rules, based on your service record. And if I'm not mistaken, the women require 30 years of service record, and for men is 35 years. Another question, please. Alexander Kosyak, Ukrainian radio. All those things that are being made, they are real cool. I don't know whether there are practices like that throughout the world, but I agree with my colleague. I don't understand a lot of things. I don't understand, for example, we work 35 years, 40 years, 50 years. Well, depending on our health conditions, then we retire and we have some financial resource, some financial provision, and I have to receive it in parts, sometimes in some insignificant parts, because not all of the pensioners are happy to retire, because their pension is not equal to their good salaries. Are there any plans for some changes? We know about the examples of some countries. You just make savings, only then you retire, and only then you can use those funds from your savings. But as you die, your children can use your savings. Do we plan any reforms in this regard? Thank you. Yes, there is a relevant draft law in the parliament. It's complicated. It's real complicated, specifically in the view of the martial law. We're discussing the details because the savings pension system, it contemplates every amount that you pay into your account to increase its value, because it should work for the economy, so that in future when you retire, those money is enough to cover the purchasing capacity it carries. So I want to draw your attention to a number of aspects. First of all, the solidary part of the pension system, it exists in many countries of Europe because it's easily forecasted and it's better guaranteed than the savings system. Nobody throughout the world can make a 100 guarantee, 100 insurance for investment risks, because it's the entrepreneurship. You may lose your money there. So the solidary system is the best. It's most secure against all the negative consequences, negative factors. For example, 10 years ago, no one could calculate for a factor of war. Does it allow us to say no, that the invested funds will be profitable at the 30% rate of inflation. No, you cannot equalize that story. It's been equalized within 20 or 30 years. This is why savings pension system is loan money. And another thing I would like to draw everyone's attention to, that in no place in the world saving system is being considered as the way to make profit. The profit is real small there, the profit margin. There are reinsurance instruments, and usually only those with a lower risk are being picked for pension funds. So we planned this savings system. We were discussing the design of it, its model, and again, the voluntary pension contribution system exists. Now there are companies who advertise themselves well at this market. They receive contributions at the level that cover the inflation for the time being, and those people who are ready to invest in their older age, they can get this personalized investment account. Meanwhile, the solidarity system, it covers all the cases. For example, if you pay minimum this threshold amount, now it's a guaranteed system which is being covered by the state. And if we distribute the insurance amounts now, insurance contribution, it would be difficult, but now that the government helps to support it, people may survive on that solidarity pension. So those are the components that I'm sure will work after the war. The solidarity system, savings system, mandatory savings, and voluntary savings system. Yes, but may I ask when the pensions will be a little bit higher when people expect? When will they reach some normal level? I have many pensioner friends. My parents are pensioners. As they get their pensions, they are happy within one day, and further on, they just survive. They make their utility payments, they pay for their food, and then everybody survives however they can. So this solidarity system is a joint wallet. All of the Ukrainians are contributing to it. The funds are being only distributed for our pensioners. The pension contributions in the pension system, they are not being forwarded to the pensions of the judges that are being paid at the expense of the state budgets. The pension contributions are being redistributed only among the regular pensioners. And it's customary for us to think that we may decrease our pension contribution because it doesn't influence anything. It's not related to the fact that it doesn't influence the pensions that our parents receive. This is why we see those low pensions. If we would be able to pay as much as our military now do, we would have this opportunity to pay a lot higher pensions. And this instrument, for example, that we present to you today, it allows the employee to get better pension in future, because in case their employer wants to make a way around the pension fund, the employees may equalize the situation by themselves. So what I see, it will work if people believe in the solidarity system that you were talking about. But many experts say that the solidarity system doesn't have future in view of the future economy, of the economic forecasts, in view of current demographic situation. So how should we convince the people to make this contribution, to convince them that solidarity system has future for people who make good salaries, for example, in IT sector? How should we convince them to take care about their future? Well, we're not new in this process. There are countries that went all the way from the rejection of solidarity system and tradition to savings system. There are examples of how the savings system crashed, so we have a lot of analytic information that proves that solidary system will exist forever. It will be the most stable instrument forever. So if us as the citizens, we trust in our state, we have to trust in the guarantees provided by the state. So solidary system is the system guaranteed by the government, so talking about its incapacity, it's not quite correct. In one way or another, it will continue existing independently of the state. It's easier to stabilize than the saving system, which is only a market mechanism. So, okay, we're now convinced that the pensions will be. So we will be wrapping up. Our next briefing is at 1500, and we will be talking about not pensions but art. See you shortly.